This is the WELLthy Investor Show, where we don't just talk about your wealth, we also talk about your holistic health. I'm your host, Matias.
And I'm Erica.
And this is the WELLthy Investor.
Welcome back to the WELLthy Investor. It is just Matias today. Erica is with the kids. It is the start of summer. Our first grader and our preschooler all had their last days, and it was a half day. So they are all together currently at our second home, our CrossFit gym. The kids are probably playing on monkey bars or playing with the rings as monkey bars, and while Erica tries to work out. But yeah, we have an exciting summer ahead of us. I don't know, you all probably all have exciting plans as well, but we are planning to go to Switzerland next month for 2 weeks. We are spending my mom's 60th, 70th birthday. Let's just go with 60th for my mom's sake, right? 60th birthday in Switzerland. We are fortunate enough to be able to travel with our whole family. My sister and her family and our whole family are going. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited about it. And later on this month, we're doing a music festival. My realtor hat sponsors that every year. So we're excited to do that as well as a family. It's a really family-friendly music festival here in Virginia. It's going to be interesting to see how this podcast works over the summer vacation months. Kids are going to be in and out of the house. So there might be more times where it's just me, or we might get interrupted with eager questions that just cannot wait. But any parents out there with little kids can probably understand or relate to that. So life is what it is, and we're just going to keep going. Excited for the summer months, excited to be out on the deck that we built last winter and actually being able to use it. I've had a couple mornings where I've built a fire in our solo stove on the deck and written, getting up at 4:30 and watching the sunrise, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, so let's get a little bit into our guest today. Our guest is Sally Gimon. Sally had a series of events happen to her, and she'll tell the story in more detail, where she realized her life was not flexible and a little bit fragile, that, a series of bad events could upset her financially and put her in a really bad position. So that was her catalyst to getting into real estate. And then she made good money in real estate and realized that she had to pay Uncle Sam a lot of money. And she had worked really hard to pay off all of her debt. Again, she's going to get into this, but then was surprised to learn how much she owed Uncle Sam at the end. So she researched and figured out Spendthrift Trusts. It's a certain type of trust that allows her to not need to pay capital gains tax. So this is a product that she sells. We will provide information about how you can reach out to her, and we'll get into details about where and how this could benefit you as a business owner, as an investor, as a realtor, and how you can, have this trust set up for generations. Apparently the Rockefellers are now on the 7th generation of this trust, is what she said. So something definitely to pay attention to. It is a legal tax thing. It is an incentive, I guess, is one way to look at it. Anything that the IRS gives as discounts or the government gives as discounts on taxes are essentially incentives for you to do them. So pay attention to this one. It's interesting, and we will see you back next Thursday with a new guest. But for now, Sally Gimon on the WELLthy Investor. And welcome back to the WELLthy Investor. I'm here with Sally Gimon. Sally, you are currently out of North Carolina, but you were from Arizona before, is that correct?
Correct.
And you are an investor, and your story, we'll let you get into it here in a minute, but it was interesting. You were telling me a little bit before we got on air here that you started this interest in trust, specifically the Spendthrift Trust, right? Because of your investing. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, what got you into investing, and how you got into the Spendthrift Trust area?
I appreciate it. Thank you. My October 2018 was my watershed month. I was working full-time as a Medicare broker, living in Phoenix. My oldest nephew was getting married in Charlotte. I had asked for the Friday before the wedding, the Monday after the wedding, to have off because I had friends and family coming around the world. For Medicare, that's open enrollment time. They told me no. I'm like, oh boy, not happy. Second thing that happened, my brand new car, a Hyundai Veloster, 3 weeks old, driving to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. A guy ran the red light, T-boned me. I had the paperwork. For gap insurance sitting on my kitchen table, not filled out. So I have $8,000 upside down on my car loan, had to get a second car loan. Third thing that happened, my mom and dad, who lived in Goodyear, Arizona, about 20 miles west of Phoenix, drove to Charlotte for the wedding. And the Thursday before the wedding, I got a phone call from my dad saying my mom was in the emergency room and they weren't sure what was wrong. She got septic of the blood poisoning. She was on a ventilator for 13 months, in a hospital for 15 months. And my parents stayed in the Charlotte area for over 9 months until my mom got strong enough to come back to Phoenix. So I was going out to their house every weekend to do the mail. First week of December, a letter that was 27 pages thick was from Medicare. It was my mom's first month's statement in the emergency room and on a ventilator. When I opened it up, it said it was $72,000. I'm like, wow.
Oh,
My dad,
goodness.
retired military officer. They had TRICARE for life. They had Medicare. She was taken care of. I'm standing in my mom and dad's kitchen. Thank God I wasn't injured in my car accident because my deductible for my health insurance was $8,000. I have 2 car loans. I have a mortgage. I have student loans because I went to graduate school, and I have credit card debt. Right then and there, I used my phone to call my friend Glenn, who had introduced me to a real estate meeting back in August of 2018. And I just said, Glenn, I have to change my life today. He's like, Sally, next Saturday, we're having a potluck Christmas party. Bring a $5 gift and some food. Meet my fellow real estate investors. Best decision of my life. I went to the party, and in 2019, still working full-time as a Medicare broker, I wholesaled 7 properties nationwide, paid off $184,000 in debt, and I was completely debt-free. Woohoo! Yay, Sally. Rock star. Then my CPA calls me in April and says, you got to come in for an appointment. I don't know about you, but when your CPA calls you, you don't want to answer. Well, you should answer. But so I drive out to Scottsdale, park in the parking garage, go up to see him, and he goes, Sally, do you know about capital gains? I'm like, yeah, I saved $50,000. It's in my bank account. And he goes, no, your tax bracket went from 22% up to 24%. There's 7 different tax brackets from 10% to 37%. He goes, you now owe the federal government $97,000. I'm going to set you up on a monthly payment plan with the IRS. My stomach dropped to my feet, kept it together. I signed the paperwork, got my parking validated, go down to the parking garage, and literally cry for 20 minutes. I mean, you're a real estate investor. You know, wholesaling, it's feast or famine. Either you got a deal in the pipeline or you don't have a deal in the pipeline. And this is COVID, so a lot of things dried up. So I drive back to Phoenix. My boyfriend made dinner. We sat across from each other going, what the hell are we going to do? You know, like completely, you know, I had some money, which we were going to pay for the first few months, but we had to find more deals. You were asking about my favorite book. My great aunt Kitty in Ireland always made a comment, when you have a problem, think about it and go to sleep. I woke up, it's called Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. I woke up the next day going, I read an article about the Rockefeller Spendthrift Trust about 5 months ago. Let me get online and Google it. This sent me down the rabbit hole. The Rockefeller's Trust is 7 generations old. It started in February of 1913 when our tax code went into effect. And I started researching this. So the Spendthrift Trust is legal. It's in the IRS tax code. It's been in front of the United States Supreme Court on 2 different occasions. Both times it's been approved. And I'm like, I got to find out how I can get one. September 2000, I started both my business trust and my beneficial trust. And I was the first female mastermind in my real estate group. Very proud of that fact. And for 18 months, I was teaching other real estate investors how they can stop paying capital gains, interest income taxes if you do notes or seller financing, rental income taxes if you have Airbnbs, vacation rental, 5 doors, 10 doors, 20 doors, or if you're doing arbitrage, and keeping the money in the trust and using it, all that money you save for more real estate. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's wow. What a story. Let me backtrack here for a second, if you don't mind. You were completely debt free. Does that include a mortgage, like for your primary house? When you paid that off?
I paid off my house. I'm very proud of that fact. And when I got the message that I had $50,000 and I had to come up with another $24,000, the thing we decided to do was do a HELOC on my house. So I didn't get on the payment plan. I paid off my taxes on time. Defeats the purpose of being paid off. And I'm like, it really irked me. And that's why I wanted to find out about how I could start my own Spendthrift Trust. My first property that I got July of 2020, it was a bank-owned reverse mortgage. You know, I had an LLC, so I was in North Carolina, so I could go visit my mom in the hospital. You know, there's a reason for that. It was in the middle of COVID. It was going to go to auction for $50,000. So I bought it for $20,000. I knew my 24% was going to be over $7,010. And I'm like, okay, at least I know how much I'm going to owe on this house now. But it didn't go to auction until August 28th of 2021, COVID restrictions. And I bought it in July. I put it into the trust in September. And the only thing I had to do was 2 simple bill of sales. I drove to the bank, got them notarized. I had $10 in my purse, gave $10 to my banker. He made his notary book that there was consideration. Go back home. I scanned them, sent them to the attorney in Raleigh, North Carolina. Next day, the attorney says, I need the first page of your trust. Send that to him. So an hour, maybe let's call it 2 hours of working. When it finally went to auction, August 28th of 2021, instead of $50,000, it went up to over $64,000. Yay, Sally made $44,000. But more importantly, I saved $10,357 in capital gain, short-term capital gains on that first property. And I've never looked back.
Okay, so that would have been, that $10,000 would have been the 24% of capital gain tax. Is that correct?
Exactly. That I personally use 24% on all my real estate because that's how I started in the trust. I'll be honest, not trying to crow, but in the last 3.5 years of having the trust, I've saved over 6 figures. I've done 28 wholesale deals, and now I've got 12 notes, and now I'm doing seller financing, which is a really neat way of doing when I can't wholesale a house.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you want to talk a little bit about that strategy? So when this airs, I've already had James Brown talk about his seller financing deals, his lease option deals. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you do your lease option.
One of the reasons I moved to North Carolina, very odd rule. There's 101 counties in North Carolina. Have you ever done an auction house anywhere in the country?
What do you mean by that?
Gone to an auction sale? Correct.
Yes, I bought an auction. Yeah.
Well, I've done that before too. Here in North Carolina, you have to know what county you're in, and it's either 10 business days or 10 calendar days. So I came out Christmas 2001, and I went to 2 different counties, and I won 3 upset bids. And I wholesaled all 3 of them, paid off the county, and then I did like a double close, paid off the county, and then gave the paperwork to the person I wholesaled to. My brother's like, are you stealing money from the bank? How are you doing this? I'm like, it's real estate. It's great. So I stay out of Mecklenburg County where Charlotte is because it literally is a 3-ring binder and people fight over it. I go to more rural places. My house that I got in November of 2023, I won for $259,000. I put it up to wholesale it, and the market changed overnight. Interest rates went up, and I wasn't even getting nibble. Nobody was contacting me. So I researched seller financing. I put it up on Facebook saying, hey, I'm going to seller finance it. I did get a hard money loan because I had to pay off the mortgage on the house, $259,000. Thank God they didn't pour concrete down the sink or anything like that. The kitchen is a little bit old, but it was okay. I opened it up over the weekend and I offered it for $310,000. The husband and wife with 2 children, she's a digital marketer. The bank won't give them a loan because her salary's not, she's a stay-at-home mom working digital marketing.
Self-employed.
So she couldn't get the loan. So they put $20,000 down. They're paying me $2,000 a month. They have until November of 2025 to either get a loan, give me another $20,000 or move out. I mean, it's the first time I've done that. And, I do have a traditional bank loan against it for the first time ever, but I'm making $600. I pay off my mortgage and then I have an extra $600. And just that one house alone, when it all finishes, let's say she gets a loan in November of 2025, I'm going to save over $75,000 in interest income taxes because of my Spendthrift Trust. And that's all my money that I can reinvest over again. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Wow. And that sounds a lot like what James Brown was talking about, where you're finding people that aren't quite eligible to get a loan right now, but they would be soon. And you had told me before as well that house was probably worth closer to $355, or at least that's what Zillow was estimating.
Zillow, if you trust Zillow,
Right.
said it was $365. The contract I have with the husband and wife is for $310, and the wife is just like, I love this house, and the husband's like, we have to redo the kitchen. Like, I love the 70s kitchen. Like, that's your problem now. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
Yeah.
so you get the tenants that are interested in the house, that they're treating it like their own, right? Because they're planning on buying it. You have the, they're getting a win out of it because they, first of all, would just be paying rent otherwise. They'd probably be paying $2,000 anyway for a house that they've lived in, like they're receiving nothing back. And they already had built-in equity if, God forbid the market doesn't crash or something, which we're not anticipating. But yeah, it's a really creative. I think a lot of times people think that the lease to own, rent to own, lease option deals are kind of have the stigma to them, like you're just taking advantage of the people that are using them because you're setting them up for failure. But this is a perfect example again of how
Perfect example, because they have equity, and by the time it
yeah,
comes up in 2 years, they're going to have an extra $44,000 more in equity. She's going to have 2 more years as being a digital marketer. Like, I'm not making fun of her, but the bank might say, "Hey, you've been doing this now for 3.5 years."
right,
I mean, the
right,
husband does have a W-2 job, but they couldn't get a loan. The husband,
yeah.
the price of the house and how much the husband was making, that the bank was saying that they were, how do I
They
say
needed her
it?
income as well.
It wasn't correct. And you talked about doing the BRRRR strategy. I don't know if it's going to turn into the BRRRR strategy or not. I now have 3 seller financing houses, and all of them are the same situation. I'm making money on all of them. And when it does come due in 2 years from now, because that's how I'm writing the contract, they know the price. They know what they're doing. They know that $20,000 is non-refundable. They know that $2,000 a month is non-refundable. They're happy with it. I tell them, here's the contract. Take it to an attorney. Please
Right.
decide before you sign. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah, because if it works out the way that everybody's planning, it's a win for them. It's great for sure. And God forbid it doesn't, you could burr it, you could renovate and try to get your cash out of the property as well and rent it out, hold it long term, or you could just turn around and charge you the same thing again, right? I mean, you could just, but I think ultimately the thing, is setting the people up for success. You want them to be able to ultimately get the house that you want them to follow through with it. And often if they are self-employed, like maybe this person is, it, you need 2 years of income to show the bank for them to count it. So
It's a win-win-win. I'm happy. The husband and wife are happy. I can't. I don't have my crystal ball, but hopefully they'll have this house. And they moved down here from Long Island, so they were looking at houses and like, we don't have the money to buy these expensive
yeah,
houses. And I hope appreciation keeps going up. Again, I don't have the crystal
we
ball,
can't
but
control it, but
it's a 3-bedroom. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, and they love it. I mean, it's perfect for a small family.
that's not a good point. That $20,000 is not a huge down payment. So like if yeah, to be able to buy something, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, all around it's just a really great win-win strategy. Um, Now, Sally, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit dense sometimes. Yeah. I want you to explain to me like I'm 5, the Spendthrift Trust, and let's do this. Let's open up my world. Let's open up the book of who I am and what I do, and maybe you can explain to me and the viewers how the Spendthrift Trust would benefit. So I am a licensed realtor. I sell real estate. I have an S corp for that business. That's got its own LLC, and I also will renovate houses. I do a few projects every year, probably 3 or so on average would be about what I do. If it's in a location that I really like, I will hold that property. So we're talking about the BRRRR strategy, where I basically buy a fixer-upper, fix that house up, refinance the money out of it, and then put a renter in it and make a good cash flow off of that. So that's a strategy I like to do if I like the location of the house. I like the house. And then I will also flip houses. So that usually is going to be less than a year of, owning that property. So tell me, what am I missing out on by not having a Spendthrift Trust?
Let me ask you, not to put you on the spot, but the last
That's all right.
house you flipped, how much did you make in profit on that house?
The last one that I flipped, I'm trying to remember now. So there have been a couple that I've resold and not done much to, but I would say, and I've often had partners. So I would say anywhere from the low end would be like 17,000 to the high end would be if I had a partner. Have I actually sold something that I owned by myself? I don't think I have. So I think the high end would be like 40 or 50,000 with the
right?
part.
Just to give you an idea, if I'm assuming you and your wife filed jointly on your taxes, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So
Correct.
there's 4 ways to file your taxes: single, head of household, jointly married, married separately. Just to give you an idea, if you're at 22%, where I thought I was, $50,000 in profit would be $11,000 in capital gain. At 24%, where I ended up being, $50,000 in profits would be $12,000 in capital gain that you would save instead of paying the federal government. I'm not anti-government, but it's in the IRS tax code. That 11,000 or 12,000, depending on your tax bracket. Do you know where your tax bracket is right now?
Not off the top of my head.
Just the main
Our
thing.
taxes have gotten so complicated that we have a bookkeeper, an accountant, and my wife is the layer between me and all those people. I
I'm not
don't know
I'm
why.
not a tax accountant. I just take people out to a free website, a NerdWallet, NERD wallet.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
figure things out. And, again, they give you a chart and things like this. Those numbers are from 2023, but
Sure.
still, it's still true for 2024. And then when you're doing, here's what I'm not a tax accountant, but if you're doing the BRRRR strategy, you're taking the equity out and redoing that. That's usually tax free. But when you go to sell that house, that's when you're
Right.
going to pay, because it's an investment property, more than a year. Capital gains are either 15% or 20%. So give you an idea, I work with business brokers, people who are selling something. A restaurant that just sold May 31st, Jim and his 2 brothers built the restaurant. Got good for them. They sold it with everything in it. It was going to be long-term capital gain. He's 69, his wife is 64. They sold the restaurant as is, all the food, the cutlery, the everything in it. At 15%, he saved $460,000. At 20%, he saved $600,000. And I said, I don't know if you want the trust. He's like, who gets that money? I'm like, it's now your money. You would have to pay this money April 15th, 2025. And he's just like, sign me up. If I'm going to save that much money and, 6 figures for the retirement, that's huge.
So the trust acts as an entity, right? I mean, explain to me how a trust works. Like, so instead of Matias Clymer, filing for my taxes or whatever, or, one of my LLCs, it's a trust that would be the taxable entity,
You're
or
going to get
how's
a
it work?
new EIN. You said you're in an S Corp right now, so you currently have an employee identification number, correct?
Yeah, I have like 5 LLCs, but yeah.
Okay. With the Benson Financial Trust, what I sell, the 4 ways it's going to save you. It's going to save you taxes year after year, generation after generation. It's going to keep your information completely private. No offense, I can go to the Secretary of State in Virginia and look up all S Corps, and 40% of all LLCs get sued every year because people do that. Third way it's going to do it. If you get every asset into the trust, your personal home, your vehicles, your real estate, it's a titanium vault. They can't get to it. But if someone tries to sue me, they can sue me, the individual. I'm worth nothing. I mean, you can't get money from a stone, so it becomes frivolous. And then the fourth way, are you aware of the 2024 Corporate Transparency Act from the Treasury Department?
Oh, I did hear about this, but I'm not an expert. But
Okay. Some people call it the CTA. The Treasury Department is requiring all entities, I don't care if you're an LLC, doing business as, S Corp, or corporation, to fill out the paperwork for the Treasury Department. If you have the Benson Financial Trust, you're exempt from doing that. My question is, what's the Treasury Department or FinTech going to do with this information? They've been hacked 3 times so far this year. If I'm a hacker from Russia or China, guess what? They want your driver's license. They want your phone number. They want your address. They want your passport number. I mean, all in one location. No. It's too easy. So with this trust, it will go from generation to generation. Like I don't have any kids, so I have 6 nieces and nephews. They're all W-2 employees. I can't help a W-2 employee, but for every Christmas and birthday, they get a silver coin, so they have something in the trust. When if something happens to me.
sure. That's interesting. I want to touch a little bit about the lawsuit stuff. This is something I've gotten into or thought about a little bit, and I think there's a common misconception, or people are don't really understand why you would need to. Like, if I'm not doing anything wrong, why should I even worry about getting sued. And I think especially when you're getting into space where you're investing and you're building assets, you're building wealth, it's smart to have asset protection, right? I mean, so even let's say somebody could sue you for something that wasn't your fault. I think that I heard an example once about the owner of a nightclub. There was a valet parking employee that hit somebody and like paralyzed them. And that owner of that nightclub didn't have his assets protected. And the lawyers went after the owner of the nightclub, even though the owner had really nothing to do with what had just happened. And since all the, a lawyer can look up to see, how much is available, and you're talking about, if you don't have anything to your name, well, you're not going to be very attractive to a lawyer, but they can look up how much assets you have. And if you have a lot, they're going to be a lot more incentivized to sue you and to take you more than what the insurance would pay out. And so it's not about if you make a mistake of an accident, your insurance is there for that reason. You're going to, cover the people with what your insurance has. But if you have a lot of wealth, then a lawyer could see that and then come after you. And so putting these things in place just makes it more difficult, I guess, for
Can
what
I
you're
give you
saying.
an actual? I've got two different stories about this.
Sure.
One
Yeah.
story from my real estate group in Arizona. Brandon's sister is a real estate agent. Her entire job for him is to find houses near. He's got this beautiful multi-million-dollar house near Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale. She found it at a good price. Brandon does Airbnb on it. This is 2023 Memorial Day. So we just did, we're in 2024. So 2023 Memorial Day, he gets a text. He's down in Rocky Point, New Mexico, and the text says, "My daughter's renting your house here in Scottsdale. I tripped and fell, broke my wrist. I'm going to sue you and put a mechanics lien on your house." Brandon's like, "Oh," I won't say curse words. He's calling me from, this is the Saturday Memorial Day weekend. He's calling me, going, "What the heck do I do?" I'm like, "Brandon, calm down. Don't worry about it till you get back to Phoenix. Then we'll have a conversation. Enjoy Mexico." He gets back. I said, "Wait until you get the information from her attorney. When you get the information, send the first page of the trust to the attorney and it'll go away." Well, this is last year. Brandon gets curious because he's a curious person. He researches the attorney's name and the woman who tried to put $1 million lien against his house. This beautiful house there. In the first 6 months of 2023, she had sued 6 other Airbnb hosts all over Nevada, California, Arizona. It was a scam. They put a lien on the house to get the equity out of the house. And he's just like, "Sally, you just saved me $1 million, let alone the rent I'm making on the house." I'm like, "Congratulations." So, if I have time, I have a second story. I'm in a national real estate group. I went to the national real estate group March, April 2022. They give us assigned seats, and I'm sitting next to this guy who is madder than a wet hen. His name's Patrick, and I'm like, "Hey, what happened?" He has 100 doors in Chicago. One of the renter's dogs got out, bit the mailman. The mailman hired an attorney, and he found 4 of Patrick's rental properties. The insurance company paid him $400,000 for a dog bite. And so Patrick's like, "Now my insurance is going to go up. This is just crazy." So I told him about the trust. He became a client. Again, this past summer, I have not seen his RV, but knowing Patrick, it is one of those $250,000 humongous RVs that the sections come out and everything else. He couldn't slow down for traffic. He hit the car in front of him that hit her into the car in front of her. The RV is in the trust. The insurance card shows the trust name. Patrick's Illinois license shows Patrick's name. They exchange information. No one's hurt. The insurance company pays to fix the cars, everything else. 6 weeks after the accident, he gets, for pain and suffering, a $500,000 lawsuit from the woman who got squished. He's like, "Well, my insurance company paid you. My insurance rates went up. I'll take the responsibility and everything, but I refuse to pay pain and suffering." She had his name. She had the name of the trust. She had no clue he had 120 doors in Chicago. She just knew he had this RV. He sends the first page of the trust to the attorney. It completely went away. And he's like, "I got to tell more real estate investors about this. This is amazing," because, I'm not wishing her to be in pain, but
Right.
$500,000 for pain and suffering when the accident happened at less than 10 miles an hour, that's crazy.
And I think this was the sad reality of what the environment we live in right now is that we have attorneys that when they see opportunity to sue, they will. And the opportunity is actual having money. So that's, it's unfortunate that we have to take these measures to prevent that kind of thing from happening. But I think that's just, the reality of
It
where we
is,
live,
I
where we
mean,
live.
if you go to the Las Vegas Strip, the 2 miles of Las Vegas Strip, there are over 118 billboards dedicated to to attorneys who will do accident fraud and everything. I mean, people make their livings off of that. I'm sorry to say that.
Personal injury and all. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you see it on TV all the time. People like, they're wearing the neck brace, and then they get out of wherever they're doing, they take it off. But yeah, and the bottom line is that we have insurance, and the insurance will pay out, once appropriate, typically, right? I mean, obviously there's limit to it, but when an attorney wants to take the next step further to really
I never heard of
milk
someone
every.
putting a mechanics lien on an Airbnb, but she had this entire. When I started talking to the law firm, they're like, "Oh, that used to happen a whole lot. People know how to do this." I'm like, "That's just criminal. That's just not fair."
Yeah, yeah, especially because I mean, who knows if she actually tricked, and that would apply her fault. But
Correct.
okay, tell me a little bit about, you're saying that the trust passes down to different generations. So I've got 3 kids, and I know that it can be a bit of a mess. I know a trust, for one thing, often cleans up or makes like probate, that kind of stuff, a lot more smooth, a lot easier. What happens when I, leave my kid properties, that if they choose to sell them? Like, what happens with the Spendthrift
Great
Trust? And
question. So 97% of the trusts out there are what my mom and dad had and what Sue Dorman talks about on television, the family trust or the living trust.
yeah,
There's nothing
yep,
wrong with that. It avoids probate and then it dissolves and it goes away.
right,
This trust avoids probate, avoids inheritance tax, and then your children, let's say you leave them an empire of 100 doors. Congratulations. 33 to one child, 33 to another child, and your favorite child gets 34. So they're gonna continue to save rental income. They're gonna continue, if they decide to sell the property, they won't pay capital gain. If one of your children marries Susie the Floozy, just making fun of this, and they have 2 kids, and then they get divorced, you can decide Susie the Floozy is a beneficiary for the 5 years they're married, and then when they get divorced, she's no longer a beneficiary, but your grandchildren are still beneficiaries. Like you can decide who's a beneficiary and who's not the beneficiary.
so you
It
set
could
that up in
be
the beginning.
business partner. It could be your parent. It could be your cousin. Once you start the trust, you are in charge of who the beneficiaries are. We're not telling you who to make a beneficiary or how to make a beneficiary. We'll answer your question, but you decide, and you decide when that person is no longer a beneficiary. One of my clients, the true story, 3 kids. One child is unfortunately on drugs. The parent, they have apartment buildings in Los Angeles. They're requiring her to pass 3 drug tests a month to stay in the apartment building. She went to go sue her mom and dad, saying this is unconstitutional, saying you can't do this. And the judge was like, you can live for free and be drug free and not have to pay rent. You do this. And she's just
Right.
like, well, I want my equity out of the apartment buildings now. And they're like, they've no longer made her a beneficiary until she gets cleaned up, if that makes sense. I mean, it's a hard decision, but that's what they had to do.
Yeah, I think the wealth and parenting
Correct.
is a whole other topic, and I think
Correct.
trust
Because you
often.
do want to leave a legacy for family, and you want to make sure it's done correctly. And the neat thing, when you do decide, because you got 3 kids with 100 doors, one child gets more houses than the other one, they can't contest that. They can't take it to court because it's all in the trust. Either you're 6 feet under the ground or you're cremated. They can't come back. They might say negative words about you, but they can't change whatever you decide. So if you decide, I'm leaving 50 doors to one child, 25 doors to another child, and 25 doors to the third child, that's your decision.
Right. Yeah. That's really interesting. So you say you're selling this product. Is that correct?
Correct. If you go
So
out, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, keep
If
going.
you research 643B, tax code 643B, you're going to find an opinion letter from the IRS saying they want to change the rule. It's an opinion letter. IRS can't change the tax code. Only Congress can change the tax code. Worst case scenario, if they ever, I'm not calling it the do nothing Congress, but they don't do very much. If they ever get their act together and change the tax code, my business trust and my beneficial trust are already established, and it's a contract. It's contract law. The only people who can change it is the law firm or myself. The IRS can't do it. If they change the code, I might not be able to sell any more trusts, but my trust will keep on going. I mean, not to crow, but with my business trust, I have 3 online businesses. 2022 and 2023, I saved 92% on my federal income taxes and didn't pay any North Carolina taxes. I was happy to pay 8% to the federal government for my online businesses, and I'm like, look, I just saved a whole bunch of money, and that money will never be paid back.
Wow. Yeah. And people, I think one thing about the fishing about tax code or people talking about these tax incentives, but negatively, right? I think it's
very
really,
much so.
it's really, it's all written in it's all written in the code. And the only difference is if you know about it or not. And anybody will take advantage of what tax codes they know of. I mean, I think that I don't know of anybody that, refuses to, claim their children as dependents or whatever, tax advantages they take. So learning more about, and another way to look at it would be, it's kind of like you're giving yourself a raise, a 24% raise, for the short-term capital gains or whatever, but it's another way to look at it. So that's super interesting. What are some good ways? Go ahead.
The first page of the tax code says it's up to each individual to save as much as they can. And again, I just followed the breadcrumbs. I read the article about the Rockefellers trust. It's called The Office. Anybody else can go out there and research this too, but I'm trying to make the learning curve as easy as possible for other people, if that makes sense.
So what would be the next steps for people to reach out if they're interested?
I appreciate that. I have a free class. Have you ever heard of Six Sigma, the consulting group?
Yeah, I think so. Tell me about it.
They just started a new competition versus Kajabi in school. So my free class is my name, www.sallygimon.com. I have a presentation with slide decks. I have 3 articles from Forbes magazine. I have 2 pages of case law there. And then I do have, again, talking about the most expensive way to file your taxes is single. So if you're making $80,000, how much you would save in all 50 states. 7 states don't have state income taxes: South Dakota, Nevada, and Texas. So you would only save $11,348 a year. But here in North Carolina, I'm saving over $14,000 a year because state and federal income taxes put together. It's just to give people information because so few people have ever heard of this. It's not taught in school. It's not taught in university. I mean, I took 5 months of my background is research, and it took me that long to find this.
Okay. Awesome. And we'll link that in the show notes as well. Are you on social media? Do you want anybody to follow you on those platforms, any platforms?
My first name and my last name. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on TikTok with my name, and then also I'm on there with Spendthrift Trust. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. I'm at 936 people. I'm growing it slowly,
Nice.
but I think it's Sally Gimon. The only thing where it's backwards is, what's it called? It's not Twitter anymore. What's it called?
X.
It's
X.com.
Gimmon Sally. I mean, having a different last name helps.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll link that as well. Well, thanks so much for being on. It's been a
I appreciate
really
you having
informative
me
conversation.
to talk here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Looking forward to connecting.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Investor Podcast, where we talk about wealth and holistic health. If you enjoy our content, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to hear new episodes every Thursday. If you really like our content, you can follow us on social media at The Wealthy Investor, wealthy spelled WELLthy.